What's up, guys? It's Justin Stenstrom from Elite Man Magazine, and in today's video, I'm going to talk about the 5 things I wish I knew in my 20s. As you get older and older, time seems to just fly by. There's an old quote, I forget exactly what it is verbatim, but it's essentially, the days are long and the years are short, meaning that we fill up our days with so much to do. We get so much hectic, busy schedules and just have so many compacted things into our short days that the days seem so long because we're always trying to get things done. But as we look back on the years are so short. And as we look back, 1 year turns into 2, and it turns into 5, turns into 10, turns into 20 years. And for whatever reason it is, I think it may be like this more and more because of the microwave society that we live in now, especially with technology. But even older generations, decades ago, had this same sort of perception of reality that as you get older, things just go by quicker. And your 20s fly by, your 30s fly by, your 40s fly by, and your 50s and 60s fly by. Next thing you know, you're an old man in your 60s, late 60s, 70s, 80s, and on your deathbed in your 90s if you're lucky enough to even get there. And you look back like, what the hell happened? Where did my life even go? So I'm still pretty young in my 30s, but I know I'll be in my 40s soon enough. I know I'll be in my 50s soon enough. And I want to take these lessons that I've learned now in the past few years that I wish I knew in my 20s and carry this perception of my new reality and these life lessons I've learned into my 30s, into my 40s, etc., so that I can change my life from this point going forward and have a better experience in my life. And I hope you take these lessons, especially if you're a younger man in your 20s and your 30s, and can learn from the things that I've learned as well. So number 1, it's okay to be alone. Something I wish I knew 15 years ago or so was that it's okay to be alone. You don't always have to chase that relationship or chase being with girls or hooking up with girls all the time. You don't always have to put yourself out there because you're uncomfortable being by yourself or you're afraid to be by yourself. I know this was very big in my own life. It took me a while of really just sitting with myself and being comfortable with myself, being comfortable with that uncomfortableness of not having people around me or not having relationships or not having that feeling like I was always safe and protected because I had somebody else to fall back on or lean on when things got tough. But for a period of time, I'm talking many years, being okay with that uncomfortableness of being lonely at times, of being afraid at times, of being fearful of. And that's for some reason, and this isn't for every single man, but I think every man has this to a degree where we feel like we always want to be with somebody else or we always have to be with somebody else if it's to a more of an extreme extent, like in my case. But in many cases, and many men out there are to that degree where they always, like I was, have to feel like they need to be with somebody else to be okay, to be comfortable, to feel safe. But I'm telling you right now, the quicker you can get with being okay and comfortable with that uncomfortableness, okay with that being alone, okay with not having to rely on other people, but just rely on yourself, the better off you're going to be in the long run. And consequently, and funny enough, the better your relationships will be in the long run because the neediness and the desire to always have to be with somebody else immediately goes away, and the comfortableness in yourself and the strongness and the boldness and the true confidence really in who you truly are grows when you're okay with being by yourself. And that expression of being by yourself and being okay and comfortable with yourself exudes out in all relationships, especially when we're talking about intimate relationships, when you start really dating and taking relationships seriously and then talking about the next step, which is marriage. The quicker you can be okay and comfortable with being with yourself and being alone, the better off your life is going to be in all aspects, but especially when it comes to relationships with someone you really love or care about. The second thing I wish I knew in my 20s was, this is actually kind of reverse for a lot of people. So in my experience, I feel like I totally butchered this in some ways. Like in some ways it kind of worked out just because I'm the type of guy who always just works hard to figure things out. But it took me way longer than it should have. And the thing I wish I knew was, I wish I worked hard with a high income paying job for say 3 to 5 years, probably 5 years, as opposed to what I actually did and what I think a lot of guys in my space do, in the entrepreneurial online marketing space, the online business space, which is, more and more people these days, the social media influencer type of space. More and more people, I think, are doing this these days, where I kind of had this idea way back before it was cool, but kind of fucked up because I dove too much into this idea and fell too fast for the dream without having a real vision, concept, plan for how to achieve this. So what I'm getting at is, I wish I knew, and I'm talking about specifically here, making money, having a career, doing what you love to do. I wish, instead of diving into this space that I'm in today, which is the online influencer marketing space, digital marketing space, whatever you want to call it, but essentially doing it's really what it is being an artist before actually being a moneymaker. So and that's in my idea, this whole online thing, the online marketing, influencer, social media influencer thing, I saw what it was 15 years ago, at least. Yeah, probably 15 years ago or so, 10 years before everybody else saw what it was. And yeah, okay, that's a good thing. I'll give myself some credit there. But I didn't see how difficult it was going to be to actually make it and be able to make true money from it. I had this dream, I had this goal, I had this, love and passion to do the artist thing, but kind of put the horse before the cart, or the cart before the horse. Whereas I tried to make it all work, tried to make the dream work, did all these things, making videos and, recording podcasts and doing this and doing that, tried to make it all work without actually having an idea of how to make it work, a true idea, not being able to afford, and this was a mistake as well, but not being able to afford or hire a coach to show me what to do, not having a good plan in place to actually make it work so I could take off running right away, and not having, most importantly, a bankroll to when I actually needed money to throw into the business, to essentially throw gas onto the little fire that I was basically trying to get going, not having that ability to get this fire going and to blow up into something that I wanted it to and needed it to be. So instead of, say, the way I should have did it, which was in my 20s, I wish I knew this, get a high income skill, high income paying job, even a trade of sorts. I knew a ton of guys in high school, plumbers, electricians, carpenters, mechanics, all these trades that immediately right after high school started making 60, 80, 90K a year back 15 years ago, when that was a ton of money. And for somebody who's 19, 20 years old, 21 years old, doing that for 3 to 5 years, you have a shit ton of money. You actually have a real bankroll to then throw into a business, a side hustle, an online passion, an online marketing passion, a social media influencing passion, or YouTube goal, whatever you want to pursue. You have that built up already, and you can just throw it into. You could throw as much gasoline into that fire essentially as needed. So I'm not saying that you shouldn't chase after your goals, chase after your dreams, do this passion and do the artist portion of things. I'm saying to do that, but do that as the side gig while you make real money in the meantime, which is what I wish I did. Instead of making the side gig my full-time gig and not really knowing what the hell I was doing and not having the money to actually make that thing grow as quickly as possible, I struggled for a lot of years and just grinded unnecessarily into actually trying to build up a bankroll when I could have spent that time working directly on the passion while actually getting direct income and money from a high income paying skill. So that's something I think it's a little backwards for a lot of people. I don't think a lot of people who are my age have this issue or had this issue in their 20s, but I think a lot of people now in their 20s, because it's so popular now, because social media influencing is so big now, that a lot of people are probably falling into the same trap that I fell into 10, 15 years ago. Whereas I think if they do it the other way, get some real money for a couple of years, do this thing on the side, like spend all your time. You can even spend 40 hours, 60 hours on your main job and your high income skill, and the rest of the 40, 60 hours, and we're talking about 80, 90, whatever plus hour work weeks a week, which is a shit ton of work. I totally get that. But if you want to be successful super fast within a couple of years, that's how you have to do it. Number 3, the third thing I wish I knew in my 20s is to take care of my health even more than I thought I was already doing, which I always thought, I always was into consciously eating the right foods and working out the right way and, dieting and sleep and just always researching different things and trying to be on my A game when it came in terms of my health. But in terms of doing the wrong things that I thought were the right things for a number of years, I wish I was able to fix that sooner. I wish I was able to correct these things that I was doing in my early 20s especially, and did what I do now and what I know now. I wish I knew those things earlier on so I didn't set myself back a number of years, especially when it came to not necessarily the gym, because I was always, since I was 14 years old, 15, 16, was always lifting properly, having good form, using proper weights, like not overdoing, not overtraining, not lifting weights in ways that could get you injured, doing the right number of sets and reps. Like those can always change, in and out. You can always mix up your schedule, your routine. But I was pretty good at being consistent and finding the right things that worked for me and having success early on. But more in terms of the foods, the supplementation, and the diet. Like doing a lot of these stupid things out there. Now, this is going to piss some people off, but eating too much protein, too much fat, eating the wrong foods like dairy, eggs, gluten, trying out different fad diets like keto diets, the carnivore diet to an extent, those types of things that are more fad and that seem like they're a good idea and that have some research, flawed research, but have some research into it that make it seem even, more legit. And then you have like some people jump on a podcast with a doctor, a DR in front of their name. And it's like you fall for these trendy things and these guys seem and a lot of times these guys really are smart, but a lot of these times these guys are listening to flawed studies or they're, even doing flawed studies themselves. And they're leading you down these different traps, these rabbit holes that can set you back years. And I wish I was ahead of things where, like anybody else, you're going to fall for this if somebody seems like they know what the hell they're talking about. I wish I just kind of didn't fall for it and stuck to my gut and what I really knew intuitively was right and what was wrong. And so things like that I fell for that were the wrong ideas. I thought, well, this guy's really smart. He talks really good. He talks really well. He seems articulate. He seems like he knows how to cite these studies and he's at the forefront of this cutting edge research about this diet or that food. But in your gut, knowing that most likely it doesn't feel right, it's probably not right. So I wish I knew better on some of the things like that. Eating more fruits consistently, veggies, lowering the fat intake, lowering the protein intake a bit, things like that to just really, and then of course cutting out the obvious things like gluten and dairy, and even eggs to an extent back then would have helped me out a lot more. And then of course the things like tuna with the heavy metals in it, the mercury, and just the really bad foods that everybody knows about today that 15 years ago people didn't really know about or wasn't as prevalent in terms of information and being ubiquitous that everybody knows about today. I wish I knew some of these things 10, 15 years ago, because in terms of my health, especially my neurological brain health, my nervous system health, all these things that were a problem later in my 20s for years, I wouldn't have had to suffer with because I knew these things. I would have corrected it earlier on. Number 4, don't waste a minute or don't waste a day or even a minute of your time. As I said before, time flies. It absolutely flies. If you're stuck in a relationship, if you're with somebody that you don't truly love, that you know deep down inside isn't the right person for you, isn't your long-term girlfriend, isn't your long-term partner, spouse, future wife, if you're with somebody because, again, you're scared to be by yourself, or perhaps you're super comfortable with that person, or perhaps it's just a matter of convenience. Like it's just easy because you found someone that's pretty good that on a scale of 1 to 10, in terms of 10 being the happiest you could possibly be and 1 being absolutely miserable, maybe you're like a 7. And 7's not bad. Like it's better than sometimes in many people's eyes, it's better than nothing. It's better than being alone in many people's eyes. But I'm here to tell you, if you're doing that not only are you wasting that woman's time because you're not fully invested in her, you don't truly love her, but you're also wasting your own time. You're wasting both of your times if you're actually just being with somebody just to be with them. And that person may fully be in love with you too. So, I mean, like, think about that just on a human level, on a heart-to-heart level. How awful is that to be with somebody when you know that they're not the right person, but you think in your mind that they think you're the right person? Like, in their mind, you're a 9 or a 10. Like, you're perfect, and you know that in their eyes, they look at you as a future husband, but in your eyes, you do not look at them as a future wife. How horrible is that on a human-to-human, heart-to-heart level, where you're basically just using that person out of comfortness? I think it's one of the worst things you can possibly do. And I'm not here to say I'm, holier than thou, because I've done this in myself in the past with a couple different relationships. I feel terrible about them. At certain times, that person, I thought, in the beginning, like, this may be the right person. I want to see how this goes. But after a certain period of time, a few months, half a year, I knew, and I think many cases, people know after a few months if that person has the potential to truly be the one, or if you're simply just being with that person out of convenience. And in those situations, in my particular cases, I knew that person wasn't the right one, or those persons weren't the right one. And I just stuck with them out of fear of being lonely, out of fear of loneliness, out of fear of not being able to find somebody who was, good or on that same level. And I wasted their time, and I wasted my time. And again, time flies so quickly that if you're doing this in any aspect of life, not just relationships, by the way, but if it's your job, if it's classes that you're taking for school, if you're going to college and you're taking a bunch of courses that you have literally no interest in, and when you graduate, you're going to be absolutely miserable doing a job, or maybe even know right now that you're basically just doing these classes because your parents are paying for them, or you had a, scholarship or grant and you're kind of getting that free ride. So you're basically just taking classes just for the hell of taking classes, or maybe you're taking these classes just to say, yeah, I got a degree in so-and-so. Maybe it's prestigious, or maybe it's something that sounds good in the eyes of other people, your friends, your family, but you're literally just going to class every day. You're taking classes every day and you're miserable. Or you're going to your work every day and you hate that job, and it's a dead end job. I'm telling you right now, stop wasting your time. Don't waste another minute of it. Relationships, career, classes, whatever it may be in your life. If you can look yourself in the mirror right now. If you know that you're wasting your time, you're wasting your days, I'm telling you, it's the worst thing you could possibly do. You need to change that now. Stop, for your own benefit and for those around you as well. Stop wasting another day of your time. Your 20s fly by so quickly. It's going to be over like this, and you're going to wish that you listened to me sooner. Number 5, the 5th thing I wish I knew in my 20s was to appreciate the time I had with my loved ones. I didn't actually have any major losses in my life until recently, last couple of years in my 30s. And as much as I always knew, even as a younger man, even as a kid, really, I always knew to appreciate times with those I really like, my parents and my grandma. I always knew to appreciate the time that I had with them, because I never, knew how long it would last. I always had that kind of weird obsession with death in many ways. I don't know where it came from, but I was always sort of obsessed with that when I was younger. But even knowing that, even somebody who was conscious of that as a younger person, as a younger man, as a younger kid, I wish even in my 20s, I spent a little more time with those I loved and did a little bit more with those in terms of actually like creating experiences. Like, I saw my grandma all the time. I saw these people I loved who passed away all the time. But I took for granted actually going out and creating experiences, like traveling different places, going to see different things and experiencing different things, and even just having those different experiences that you don't have unless you go out of your way to create them, like going to the movies, going to a nicer restaurant, going on a little mini vacation, doing a little travel trip for a couple of hours, even in the car, going on a train, going to the city, checking out a play, a show, a movie, going bowling, like those things. I wish I did more of those things just to have a little bit more experiences to have created with people that I lost and loved. And as much as I did appreciate always that I had them in my life for that period of time, and that, and I was one of the lucky people who did kind of have that in the back of their mind and always thought about these people like all the time, like daily. I just kind of wish I did a little bit more. And I know everybody says that too. I wish I had a little more time with that person. I wish everybody says it after they lose somebody. And they all say it because it's true. They all say because they wish they did a little bit more. So if you're watching this right now and you're in your 20s or you're in your 30s and you haven't actually lost anybody truly, like everybody loses a cousin, aunt, or, an uncle or a grandparent that they're not super close with, maybe a distant cousin or whatever has an accident, you're not super close with that person. And it's, it's sad, but it's not a big deal. But when you really, truly love somebody, like they're one of the closest, if not the closest people to you, it's a whole different ballgame. When you truly lose somebody that you're unbelievably close to, you just wish, everybody wishes that after the fact, they wish that before they had more time with that person, they had more experiences and memories with that person. And I'm telling you right now, everybody says it because it's 100% true. So I'm telling you now, listen to me when I say this, having gone through this myself, spending more precious time with your loved ones is one of the most critical things you can ever do in your life, and especially if you're in your 20s, that you're still in the prime of your life. You're really getting into the prime of your life in your 20s. And I'm telling you right now, as much as we're talking about all these things today about you and creating the best life possible for yourself and doing the right things for yourself and bettering yourself, don't forget about spending the precious moments, times, and creating those memories with the ones you love the most, because they will be gone tomorrow. And once they're gone, you can't get that time back. But that's it for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you comment below which one is your favorite in terms of what you wish you knew when you were in your 20s, or if you're in your 30s now or your 40s now, what you took away from this video right now that you're going to start changing and implementing into your own life as you get older, like we all are every single day, and as you try to make the best of the time you have right now. So make sure you comment and like the video if you did, and share it with somebody who needs to hear it as well. Take care, and talk to you soon.